In today's reading, we're reading a son promised to Abraham and Sarah all the way through. Let's see. Chapter 23, the command to sacrifice Isaac, which is, I would say, the most famous, most popular story with Abraham. So, a son promised to Abraham and Sarah. In the last one, God promised it in the last one in their covenant, and Abraham laughed in God's face. So let's see how this chapter is going to go. The Lord appeared to Abraham by the oaks of Mamre, and as he sat on the entrance of his tent in the heat of day, he looked up and saw 3 men standing near him. When he saw them, he ran from the tent entrance to meet them, and bowed down to the ground. He said, "My Lord, if I find favor with you, do not pass by your servant. Let a little water be brought and wash your feet, and the rest yourselves under the tree. Let me bring a little bread, and you may refresh yourselves, and after that you may pass on, since you do have to come to your servant." So they said, "Do you do as you have said." And Abraham hastened into the tent to Sarah and said, "Make ready quickly 3 measures and of choice flour, knead it, and make cakes." Abraham ran to the herd and took a calf tender and good, and gave it to the servant who hasted to prepare it. Then he took curds and milk and the calf and he had prepared, and set it before them. He stood by them under the tree while they ate. They said to him, "Where is your wife Sarah?" And he said, "There in the tent." Then one said, I will surely return to you in due season, and your wife Sarah shall have a son." And Sarah was listening at the tent entrance behind them. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in age, and it had ceased to be with Sarah after a manner of women. So Sarah laughed to herself, saying, "After I have grown old, and my husband is old, I shall have pleasure." The Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh?" And I don't think Abraham laughed at God. Let's see. You shall have a covenant offspring. So let's see, every male. So let's go. Where he promises a child should be born to a man of 100. Okay, he did laugh. So Abraham laughed. Now Sarah laughed for the same reason. "Shall I indeed bear a child now that I am old? Is there anything too wonderful for the Lord? And at the set time I will return to you in due season, and Sarah shall have a son." But Sarah denied, saying, "I did not laugh," for she was afraid. He said, "Oh yes, you did laugh." Now this is judgment pronounced on Sodom. Now I'm listening to the Bible in a Year podcast. I do recommend it. I did talk about it a little bit in an episode, but I'm following it day by day, and I got to this point right here, judgment pronounced on Sodom in this general area, and I found it I really liked this story. So then the men set out from there, and they looked towards Sodom, and Abraham went with them to set on their way. The Lord said, "I shall hide from Abraham what I am about to do, seeing that Abraham shall become a great and mighty nation, and that all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. No, I have forechosen him, so that he may charge his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteous and justice, so that the Lord may bring about for Abraham what he has promised him. Then the Lord said, how great is the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah, and how very grave is their sin. I must go down and see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry that had come to me, and if not, I will know. So the men turned from there and went toward Sodom, while Abraham remained standing before the Lord. Then Abraham came near and said, will you indeed sweep away the righteous and the wicked? Suppose there were 50 righteous within the city. Will you sweep away the place and not forgive the 50 righteous who are in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to slay the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous fare as the wicked. Far be that from you. And he's like shouting at God. Okay? Shall not be the judge of all the earth do what is just? Shall not the judge of all the earth do what is just? And the Lord said, if I find at Sodom 50 righteous in the city, I will forgive the whole place for their sake. Abraham answered, let me take it upon myself to speak to the Lord, but who let me take it upon myself to speak to the Lord, I who am but dust and ashes. Suppose 5 of the 50 righteous are lacking. Will you destroy the whole city for a lack of 5? And he said, I will not destroy it if I find 45 there. And he spoke again to him. Suppose 40 are found there. He answered, for the sake of 40, I will not do it. Then he said, oh, do not let the Lord be angry if I speak. Suppose 30 are found there, he answered. I will not do it if I find 30 there. He said, let me take it upon myself to speak to the Lord. Suppose 20 were found there. He answered, for the sake of those 20, I will not destroy it. Then he said, oh, do not let the Lord be angry if I speak just once more. Suppose 10 are found there. Then he answered, for the sake of 10, I will not destroy it. And the Lord went his way. And when he had finished speaking to Abraham, Abraham returned to his place. So that was talking about God was going to judge Sodom for their sins against him. And Abraham was like, what if there's 50 righteous people? How is the judge going to not be just and kill those along with the wicked? And he was like, 45, and then 30, and then 20, and then 10. And then God was like, if I find righteous men there, I will spare the city. Okay, now let's go and read the next one. Okay, so let's read the depravity of Sodom. 2 angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. He said, please, my lords, turn aside to your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet. And then you can rise early and go on your way. They said, no, we will spend the night in the square. But he urged them strongly, so they turned aside and entered his house. And he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. But before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both young and old, all the people, to the last man, surrounded the house. And they called Lot. What are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us, so we may know them. Lot went out the door to the men to shut the door after him. Then, to the men, shut the door after him. He said, I beg you, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. Look, I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Let me bring them out to you, and do to them as you please. Only do nothing to these men. For they have come under the shelter of my roof." But they replied, "Stand back." And they said, "This fellow came here as an alien, and he would play the judge. Now we will deal worse with you than with them." Then they pressed hard against the man Lot, and came near the door to break it down. But the men inside reached out their hands and brought Lot into the house with them, and shut the door. And they struck with a blindness the men who were at the door of the house, both small and great, and they were unable to find the door. Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed. Then the men said to Lot, "Have you anyone else here, son-in-laws, sons, daughters, or anyone you have in the city? Bring them out of the place, for we are about to destroy this place, because the outcry against its people have become before the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it." So Lot went out and said to his son-in-laws, who were to marry his daughters, "Up, get out of this place, for the Lord is about to destroy the city." But he seemed to his son-in-laws to be jesting, so they thought that he was joking. When the morning dawned, the angels urged Lot to stay. "Get up, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or else will be consumed in the punishment of the city." But he lingered. So the men seized him and his wife and his 2 daughters by the hand, the Lord being merciful to them. And they brought him out and left him outside the city. When they had brought him out, them outside, they said, "Flee, for your life does not look back or stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the hills, or else you will be consumed." And Lot said to them, "Oh no, my lords, your servant has found favor with you, and you have shown me great kindness in saving my life. But I cannot flee to the hills, for fear of the disaster will overtake me and I die. Look, that city is near enough to flee to, and it is a little one. Let me escape there. Is it not a little one? And my life will be saved." He said to him, "Very well, I grant you this favor to you, that he will not overthrow the city of which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, for I can do nothing until you arrive there." Therefore the city was called Zoar. The sun has risen on the earth when Lot came to Zoar. The Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and the fire from the Lord out in heaven, and he overthrew those cities, and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the city, and what grew on the ground. But Lot's wife behind him looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Abraham went early in the morning to the place where he had stood before the Lord, and he looked down towards Sodom and Gomorrah, and towards the land of the plain, and he saw the smoke and land going up like the smoke of a furnace. So it was that when God destroyed the cities of the plain, God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had settled. The shameful origin of Moab and Ammon. Now Lot went out of Zoar and settled in the hills with his 2 daughters, for he was afraid to stay in Zoar, so he lived in a cave with his 2 daughters. And the firstborn said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is not a man on earth to come in to take us. Come in to us after the manner of all the world. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him." Okay. "And so that we may receive offspring through our father." So they made their father drink wine that night. The firstborn went in and lay with her father. He did not know when she lay down or when she rose. On the next day, the firstborn said to the younger, "Look, I lay last night with my father. Let us make him drink wine tonight also. Then you go in and lie with him, so we may preserve offspring for our father." So they made the father drink wine that night also. And the younger rose and lay with her. And he did not know when she lay down or when she rose. He did not know when she lay down or when she rose. Thus both daughters of Lot became pregnant by their father. The firstborn bore a son and named him Moab, and he is the ancestor of the Moabites to this day. And the younger bore a son and named him Ben-ammi. He is the ancestor of the Amorites to this day. So, they were pretty much like, our father's very old, and because he took them to a cave because he was afraid for his life. So he took them out of the city, and it was just him and his two daughters. They were like, our father is getting old, and there will be no men to protect us when he is gone. So they did that, and then that's the shameful origins of Moab and Ammon, which led to the Moabites and the Ammonites to this day. So now 20:21:22. So 20 is Abraham and Sarah at Gerar, and then Hagar and Ishmael sent away, and then the command to sacrifice Isaac, which is what we will be ending on today. So Abraham sent Sarah at Gerar. So from there Abraham journeyed towards the region of Negev and settled between Kadesh and Shur. While residing in Gerar as an alien, Abraham said to his wife Sarah, "She's my sister," and King Abimelech of Gerar sent away and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, "You are about to die because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is a married woman." Now Abimelech, who had not approached her, so he said, "Lord, will you destroy an innocent people? Did he not himself say to me, 'She is my sister'?" And she herself said, "He is my brother. I did this in an integrity of my heart and the innocence of my hand." Then God said to him in the dream, "Yes, I know that you did this in the integrity of your heart. Furthermore, it was I who kept you from sinning against me. Therefore, I did not let you touch her. Now, then, return to the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you shall live. But if you do not restore her, know that you shall surely die, and you and all that are yours." So he's saying, return her to the prophet, because he is a prophet, he's a good man, he will pray for you and you will not die, or you and all that is yours will die. So Abimelech rose early in the morning and called all his servants and told them of these things, and the men were very much afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, "What have you done to us? How have I sinned against you, and that you have brought such great guilt on me and my kingdom? You have done things against me that ought not to be done." And Abimelech said to Abraham, "What were you thinking when you did this thing?" Abraham said, "I did it because I thought there was no fear of God at all in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she is indeed my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And when God caused me to wander from my father's house, I said to her, this is the kindness you must do to me. You must do me. At every place to which we come, say of me, he is my brother. Then Abimelech took sheep and oxen, and male and female slaves, and gave them to Abraham, and restored his wife Sarah to him. Abimelech said, my land is before you. Settle where it pleases you. To Sarah he said, look, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. This is your exoneration before all who are with you. Before all who are with you. You are completely vindicated. Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, and also healed his wife and female slaves, so that they bore children. For the land had closed fast, and all the wombs of the house of Abimelech became of Sarah, Abraham's wife. Now we move on to the birth of Isaac. So the Lord dealt with Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah as he had promised. Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the time of which God had spoken to him. Abraham gave the name Isaac to the son whom Sarah bore him. And Abraham circumcised his son when he was 8 days old, as God had commanded him to, because of the covenant. So 8 days, because that was the covenant, 8 days old. So Abraham was 100 years old when he bore Isaac, and was born to him. Now Sarah said, God has brought laughter to me. Everyone who hears will laugh with me. And she said, who would ever have said that Abraham and Sarah were to nurse children? Yet I have borne a son to him in his old age. So she was saying, pretty much like, it's funny that they're 100 years old and had a son, and then everyone will have a laugh because of it. But God can work miracles even to an extreme like that way, because God's power is no bounds. Hagar and Ishmael sent away. The children grew and was weaned. And Abraham made a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. But Sarah saw that the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she has borne to Abraham, playing with her son Isaac. So she said to Abraham, cast out this slave woman with her son. For the son of this slave woman shall not inherit along with my son Isaac. The matter was very distressing to Abraham on the account of his son. But God said to Abraham, do not be distressed of what the boy and because of your slave woman. Whatever Sarah says to you, do as she tells you, for it is through Isaac that offspring shall be named for you. As for the son of the slave woman, I will make a nation for him, because he is your offspring. So Abraham rose early in the morning, and took bread and the skin of water, and gave it to Hagar, putting it on his shoulder, along with the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered about in the wilderness of Beersheba. When the water of the skin was gone, she cast the child under one of the bushes, and she went off and sat down in the opposite him, a good way off, about the distance of a blow shot. For she said, Do not let me look on the death of my child. She sat opposite of him and lifted up her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the boy. And an angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, "What troubles you, Hagar? Do not be afraid, for God has heard the voice of your boy where he is. Come, lift up the boy and hold him fast with your hands. For I will make a great nation for him." Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the skin with water, and gave to the boy to drink. God was with the boy, and he grew up, and he lived in the wilderness, and became an expert with the bow. He lived in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother got a wife for him in the land of Egypt. Now Abraham and Abimelech make a covenant. So, at the time, Abimelech with Phicol was the commander of his army, and said to Abraham, "God is with you, and all that you do. Now therefore swear to me here, by here that you will not deal falsely to me, or with my offspring, or with my posterity. But as I have dealt loyalty with you, you will deal with me, and in the land where you have resided as an alien." And Abraham said, "I swear it." When Abraham complained to Abimelech about the well of water that Abimelech's servants have seized, Abimelech said, "I do not know who has done this, and you did not tell me, and I have not heard of it until today." So Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them to Abimelech, and made two men a covenant, and the two men made a covenant. Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock, and Abimelech said to Abraham, "What is the meaning of these 7 ewe lambs that you have set apart?" He said, "These 7 ewe lambs that you shall accept from my hand in order to be a witness for me that I dug this well." Therefore the place was called Beer-sheba, because they were both sworn an oath. When they made a covenant at Beer-sheba, Abimelech with Phicol, the commander of his army, or Phicol, I don't know, left and returned to the land of Philistines. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beer-sheba, and called there the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham resided as an alien many days in the lands of Philistines. Okay, if you've at least watched 2, or maybe just watched this reading, you know that I struggle. I struggle with the Hebrew. I can't do it. I struggle. I can't pronounce them. But we are here. We are at chapter 22, the command to sacrifice Isaac. Let's read it. After these things, God tested Abraham. He said to him, "Abraham." And he said, "Here I am," he said. Not a he said, or am I just from that? "Take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him as a burnt offering to me of the mountain that I shall show you." So Abraham rose early in the morning, and saddled his donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him, and his son Isaac. He cut the wood for the burnt offering, and set out, and went to the place in the distance that God showed him. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place far away. Then Abraham said to his young men, "Stay here with the donkey. The boy and I will go up there. We will worship, and we will come back down to you." Abraham took the wood as the burnt offering, and laid laid on his son Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife. So the two of them walked up together, and he said, "Here, I am to my son," he said, "the fire and the wood are here, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering?" Abraham said, "God himself will provide the lamb for a burnt offering, my son." So the two walked up together. Now, I just want to point out, because I have been listening to the Bible in the Year podcast, and Father Mike pointed this out. He was saying that it said that Isaac carried the firewood up himself, and the story is spun in a way where Isaac was very, very young and overpowered. But this story makes it seem, like he points out, they are he's like 30, 33 years old, and could overpower Abraham if needed. So when they came to the place that God had shown them, Abraham built an altar there and laid the wood in order. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar at the top of the wood. Then Abraham reached out his knife and took the knife to kill his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, "Abraham! Abraham!" Again, two Abrahams. Or did they pronounce? I don't know. Abraham, Abraham. And said to him, "Here I am." He said, "Do not lay your hand on the boy or do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, since you did not withhold your son, but your only son from me." And Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught in the thicket by its horns. Abraham went and took the ram and offered it as a burnt offering instead of his son. Abraham called that place, "The Lord will provide." And it said to this day, "On the mount of the Lord it shall be provided." The angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time from heaven and said, "By myself I have sworn, says the Lord, because you have done this, you have not withheld your son, your only son. I will indeed bless you, and I will make your offspring as numerous as the stars of heaven and as the sand that is on the seashore. And your offspring shall possess the gate of their enemies. By your offspring shall nations of the earth gain blessing for themselves, because you have obeyed my voice." So Abraham returned to his young men, and they arose and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham lived at Beersheba. And that is the end of this reading. It was, a longer reading than others, but it had to be, I feel, because let's see, where did we start? We started at a son promise to Abraham and Sarah. So I wanted to take us on a little journey from when God promised Isaac to one of the most famous biblical stories, Abraham about to sacrifice Isaac before the angel of the Lord appeared and said, "It was a test, and you have shown that you do fear God, and therefore you are blessed, and your offspring shall be as numerous as the sands of the beach and of the stars of the heavens." And they are blessed, and he just, packed up and went back home. So that's gonna end it for today's reading. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.